Hello and welcome to this video. My name is Jeanette, and for this week, this video, we're going to be talking about Jenna Fischer's book, The Actor's Life, A Survival Guide. Now, I know what you're thinking. Jeanette, you're not an actor. I know. I've been living with this voice for the past 100 years. I totally get it. I put people to sleep. I get it. But despite all that, I felt that it was a book that I wanted to look into. I just feel that with everything going on and that I have nothing to do, I figure why not read this book just for funsies. Overall, I really like this book. I think even if you are not an actor, this would be a good book to look into if you're trying to get good notes from what you want to work on, and kind of a source of encouragement to be yes, even though it's been 2 years after you graduated and you have tons of student debt, that at least this book gives you hope that yes, it may be a while for you to succeed in life in any form or any field that you want to be in, but at least it gives you hope that yes, you will get a job and you will succeed sometime. It might not happen overnight, but it will happen. The pro about this book was that it was very informative. I felt that Fischer goes into detail about the requirements people need to do when becoming a working actor. This includes the 101s of headshots or getting into a union, building a resume, having an agent and or manager, and dealing with auditions and dealing with constant decline, constant rejection. She also goes into detail that getting started doesn't mean that you have to be perfect, which I really like, because people tell you oh, it's so easy. It really isn't, especially if you are wanting to be an actor, even just working in the industry. She also notes that you don't have to get an agent or a manager right after college, because she does note in one of the chapters for the agents and managers that they mostly prefer actors who've had recent works or who had built enough of a resume for them to go out and then sell you as the actor to get auditions and hopefully get callbacks and such. And this is also the same when trying to get into a union, and how she also notes that once you get into the union, it's almost impossible, if not kind of a no-no, to work on a non-union set. And she even goes into detail of how if you are a production company who wants to develop and produce a film and you wanted to have SAG affiliated actors, you had to go through all this process, signing a lot of forms and then making sure that you read the actors' requirements for their income, because when you're in the union, it's basically to kind of provide protection, making sure that you get paid for what you know, and basically your experience. And again, she also not only goes into detail about the union, trying to get into the union, but she also goes into detail of what happens once you're in the union, and how you don't have as much ability to be flexible to people, because when you're not in the SAG union, you're able to work more than 12 hours a day. You can work more than that, and then you can also only get paid maybe 50 or so bucks a day instead of maybe a little bit more than that. Even though this does focus on the actors union, it does reflect to other unions around the world that it's almost once you're in the union, you can't really go against the union, because it's you've already are secured by the union with job benefits, wages, healthcare, all that, and then making sure that you get paid for it. So it's why would you go into it only to go against the union? But that's a whole nother thing. She also goes into detail of how to deal with rejection and trying to persevere through the auditions. This is where I can relate to in terms of applying for full-time jobs, especially during this time where you constantly go to job interview and constantly go to different jobs and for different positions or companies, only to find out that you didn't get in, or you were close, or you were in the last round of interviews before the final selection, only to find out that you didn't get the job. And she also not only goes into her experience of dealing with rejection, but she also asks other actors and I think even a couple of like writers and producers who talked about rejection and the perseverance. And then there is another chapter where it's like once you get a gig or once you get like a series, regular series on a TV show, or maybe just like, you know, working on a film for like about 3 or so months, she fills in the reader on how to act when on a production. And there is a list like at the end of the chapter that does like a summary of it. So if you kind of like left out or you're like over highlighting the book, there is just like a summary at the end of the chapter for that, which I really did appreciate. And then again, she goes into like experiences from her friends that did something that they weren't supposed to do on a production set only to then get fired for it, or how she found out that I think it was like either her or a friend of hers forgot to rehearse the lines, or they actually had their lines ready to go, but then they didn't realize that they actually changed it overnight. And she then checked the new script. Because like usually at the beginning of each production day, the actors kind of give like an updated script just in case if there was a change in the script. And then she does this for both TV and film, which is basically the same in terms of like the scheduling. TV is like more of like if it is like on a network show, they do one episode every week. And then they usually take like a week to do rehearsals and shoot the scene. While with film, it's a little bit different. There's like a couple of months or so in pre-production, possibly rehearsals depending on the director. And then there's like about 3 or so months of production depending on the budget and then depending on what this film is. If it's an indie film, it may be just like less than a month. But if it's like more of like a larger scale, like maybe a Marvel movie, it will probably be about 3 or so months, given the fact that everyone has like different scheduling systems and they had to do more things happening at the same time. They may have like a second unit shooting like all the extras and such while the main crew work with the main cast. So it's a bit different, but still like roughly the same thing and roughly the same when it comes to etiquette. I also like the book because I feel that the book had like a personal touch to it compared to other self-help books or like informative books when learning about things like, you know, acting life or other things. So yeah, throughout the book, I feel that Jenna brings up stories from her journey as a struggling actor to being on an award-winning show, The Office. She also brings up like stories after The Office ended. I think like one of my favorite ones was when she was talking about how she did a pilot with Matt LeBlanc. I think it was his recent sitcom. I think it was on like CBS or something. It just recently got canceled, which is sad, but it's, you know, things happen. But she did talk about the whole process and everything, and then when it gets to the network for the pilot, the network liked the pilot. However, they didn't like the chemistry between Jenna Fischer and Matt LeBlanc. They felt that it wasn't a couple would be, or it's something like that. And so they ended up picking up the show, but they picked up the show without Jenna Fischer. And she talked about the moment that she found out that she got fired when her manager and agent were on the phone with her. And then she thought that, oh, like the show got picked up. But finding out that, yeah, the show got picked up, but without her. And she kind of talked about her experience like afterwards, how like she just decided to just go on a trip, kind of, you know, do photography for a bit before going back on the auditioning runs. And it shows that like even though you were on a successful show like The Office or have done a bunch of hits throughout the years, like you can still have a difficult time afterwards. You could still like struggle to get a gig. It could be like more than like a few years until you get another gig. And I feel that like it's a pretty great story to talk about. Yes, it's very personal, and yes, like it's not like a happy ending, but at least like she tells you that, hey, like, this did happen to me, and it happened to me after I was on The Office. So it wasn't like I was a struggling artist, a struggling actor. I was like, I was Pam on The Office, and and this happened. And then she also mentions that when you are on the working field, if you are on a successful show, it doesn't solidify your job security. Maybe you say something to the head writer or something, like that one guy from the Criminal Minds series, and how his character ended up getting killed or something like that, and then so he gets fired, basically. Even though you may be successful in the acting role, or even in like just the working field in general. Even if you are successful and you're in a really great high paying job, and like the next day, like something could happen and you could either get fired, or there could be a different management that wants to like fire everyone that used to be working for the original manager or the original CEO, who knows. But again, it kind of shows that there is no job security now. So it's totally fine if something doesn't go the way that is planned. But again, like her like continuing to be like, just, you know, try to be positive, try to keep going at it. And she did even like talked about how like she wanted to quit acting. I think it was like a couple years into it, and how she just wanted to go back to St. Louis. But then she found out that like she's done so much in such a short time only to just quit. And she's also talked about how some of her roommates, they had to, you know, go back home because nothing was going the way that they planned to go, because they were also working actors, and they also quit and left or did just like a regular 9-to-5 job. So she did state that yes, like acting may not be for everyone, especially for me. Again, my voice, I know. But it's like, if you really want it, and if you really want to persevere and you're willing to, you know, keep going, even though you've been through so many rejections, then go do it. Go be a clown or do something that you want to do. And it is kind of funny because she did state in one of the moments where she was kind of like giving people like ideas of what to do if you're in a situation where you're kind of stuck in the middle and you want to like still do the job that you want to do. She states that she encourages people to try new things, not like Ivanka Trump style, but a little bit different. So one of her examples was like, if you really like painting, then while you are looking for a job, while you are, you know, being a struggling actor, you can like paint. And it could be like just like painting for your own like hobby, basically. And knowing that I'm not going to go out and sell this. Like, this is only for me, and this is only for like myself. And then she also like, you know, brings up things like creating a podcast and creating a YouTube channel or doing like arts and crafts. And she states that even though like they may just be like hobbies, they may just be mundane things that you just want to do to kind of busy your mind, so you're not so focused on trying to get a job or trying to get a gig or whatever, it can lead to a different avenue that you may find out that it is successful. Like this one guy, he was from The Office. He was like one of the characters, but he wasn't one of the main characters. I forgot his name, but I may have it somewhere around here.
Hello, Editing Jeanette here. While I was editing this video, I realized there is about 3 minutes of me talking about Mark Prosh while a garbage truck is going through the alley, and apparently for some reason I didn't stop and wait for the garbage truck to just, you know, drive by, do its thing. So what I was trying to explain was that Mark Prosh was a actor who was having a hard time trying to get gigs while in like the Midwest, and he felt that it was a great idea to do something that he knows that if it was more of like for his kind kind of like happiness rather than trying to like do something in order to get a gig. So he created this character called Kevin Strouser, who is this yo-yo master and is doing this campaign of anti-drug while doing some yo-yo tricks. However, whenever he gets interviewed by morning news shows around, I believe, Oklahoma and Kansas, he would fail at performing tricks, or it wouldn't go the way that he would want it to go. And one of the segments got on YouTube, and one of the writers for The Office saw it and sent it up to the creator and also the head writers, which then caused them to ask Mark to fly over to Los Angeles to be a character in The Office. And yeah, so basically what Jenna was trying to explain was that you could basically do something that you know that you would love to do, and that you would be fine with it if it doesn't go anywhere further, because it could, like, it can like become something more than that. And yeah, that's kind of it.
And another good pro of this book was that she kind of got advice from other people. So she did talked about what other people have told her, and then also she did a couple interviews with a few actors as well. And she brings up this one time that Matt Weiner, who was the creator of Mad Men, how I guess like someone asked him like what do you have any advice on for up and comers in the industry, and he stated that it would be great if people can like talk about not only their success but also talking about the struggle to success. In his quote, it was saying sharing the brushstrokes, because he talked about how for a lot of people, like a lot of successful people, they just kind of like talk about, oh yeah, like I have all this money, I did this, I did that type of thing, but they never talked about the journey to that success, the journey to like their breakout role, or how they found like this company that ended up being like $1 billion revenue, or I don't know. But he talked about how like it is important for people to kind of talk about their struggles and to talk about how they got to where they were, because it kind of encourages people to up and comers, and also people, maybe even kids, that are like, yeah, like this, it's like this person took like 50 years to get to where he or she is, and it's okay. Like it's not like a bad thing to not succeed like overnight. And then also I feel that by bringing up your journey lets people know that like, hey, like it's okay if like you're struggling like 2 or so years out of college, or 2 or so years into the industry. Like it's okay, like you'll get there. It may take a while, but you'll get there. And especially for people who have anxiety and they're like freaking out because it's like, oh my god, I've been trying to get a job for 4 years or something like that, only to not get anything, not get anywhere in life, because they mostly gotten stories about like how people are like, oh yeah, like I auditioned for this role and then I got it, but never talked about what happened beforehand, what happened to the 50 or so auditions that they did and not get. She also interviewed a couple of actors, so Natalie Zia, Sean Gunn, Derek Waters, and Reed Burney. And she like kind of like did an interview with them, like in individual interviews, not all together. All 4 stories, they had different experiences. So with Natalie Z, she got some success like in the beginning, and then had like a drought, and then got some success, then had a drought. I think like she talked about how she was on this one show and there was like a wardrobe like issue because she was wearing a pencil skirt, and it was really like a nice pencil skirt that she stated, and how the directors and the producers like approved it. Only to find out that in the script she's supposed to like straddle a guy, and how she wouldn't be able to do it with the pencil skirt because it's like a tight pencil skirt. She stated like, hey, like, I'm totally fine changing it, but apparently they made such a big deal about it. Also, like, one of the PAs, I guess, was like by her trailer while she was waiting for them to figure out what to do. The PA stated that, oh yeah, like, Natalie is like making a big deal about this, and Natalie basically came up to the PA and was like, look, like, I said that I'm totally fine changing my wardrobe. I just wanted to do the scene. It's not like I'm making a big deal about it. But she did talk about how sometimes she had to step up for herself and had to speak her own mind, even though it could come off as being like, oh, this person is like a difficult actor, even though I've experienced way more people who've had bad experiences to work with. Like, this is like nothing. And then she talks to Sean Gunn, who stated that he had success after he graduated from this like acting studio. It wasn't the actor studio, it was like an elite high school, I don't know. But anyway, he stated that he got a lot of gigs afterwards, and he was doing really great. And then he had like a drought for like 10 years, and he talked about how he just kept persevering. He kept like doing like different things while also trying to go big as an actor. And then he ended up being a character in the Marvel Cinematic Universe, so that was pretty cool. Then she talks to Derek Waters, who talked about how he had a hard time trying to get a streak of jobs as an actor, and then he ended up having to make his own stuff, making the Comedy Central show Drunk History. He states that, yes, like, I was having a hard time trying to get gigs. The only gigs I could get were either like drunk guy number 12 or stone guy number 8. Like, you can only get those types of characters, and like almost was typecast in a sense. And he decided to create Drunk History, and so he was able to like play a couple roles for the reenactments of Drunk History, mainly because he was the creator of the show. I would say like in his role, it was almost like, hey, like, he did something else while also doing this, and that led him to be a successful actor, basically. Like, yes, like, it is a reenactment, but hey, a lot of people do reenactment scenes. And then finally you have Reed, who basically had a 30-year drought in his career, and he talks about how he had success in like his, I think it was like in high school or in college, and how he thought that he was going to make it big. But then the one movie that he was in as I think it was either a supporting actor, that people thought that he was going to get an Oscar for this role, ended up not doing well in the box office, and a lot of critics didn't like the film, so it caused him to have a hard time trying to get a role in anything. He had a hard time trying to get into movies, so then he was focused more on theater works. He was so obsessed with this one play that he loved, and I think he even like joined an acting group just to do that play, but then they decided to do another play, like a whole different play, and he still wanted to do that play, that he even went to the one area or one company that was doing the play, that he wanted to do it. He wanted to be this one role, but he ended up not getting it. However, that play that he wanted to be in ended up flopping, and then the one play that he decided to be in became successful. Mainly it was because like they had to fill in for other theater companies. Like, one theater company was like, oh, this one play isn't available, so can you guys help us out in this one theater company? So then they did it for like maybe a few weeks, and then another company was like, oh, we actually need a fill-in play for a couple months, and then that led to him be able to be on Broadway. He stated that he couldn't get gigs for a while, and then it got to the point where he kind of just wasn't so focused on choosing roles that would help him succeed or help him get like an award or something, and just like pick roles that he likes, that he generally thinks is a challenge. And that actually led him to win a Tony for his performance. And Jenna actually added his acceptance speech in the end of his interview.
The last thing I want to say is I've been an actor for almost 42 years, which I cannot believe I'm saying. But 35 of them were pretty bad. And that's a lot of them. And I just couldn't get anything going. So the last 8 have been great. But the thing that was always great, wherever I was, whatever level I was on, were the amazing people I got to work with. Almost all of them were hilarious and talented and full of passion and joy, and they loved putting on plays and telling stories. They always have been and are still the best part of what I do, and I am so grateful to all of you, and I love sharing the planet with all of you. Thank you very much.
So yeah, like even though he had like a drought for 30 years, he still became successful. Yes, it kind of sucks that like he became successful at 60, but then so was Kathy Bates in Misery. Like that was her main, like her breakout role. And I think at the time she was like in her 50s. You don't have to be successful at the age of 30. You could be successful at the age of 60, maybe 80, who knows. I would say I did have a con in this book, but mainly the con was that it only focused on actors. But then again, like, I mean, given the fact that this is Jenna Fischer and how this is like, she is an actress, she's not like a producer, she's not a director, but I could feel that despite that, like, again, it's not really a con, but like for some people it's like, oh well, this is only focused on actors, but you could still get something out of this. You could get some like encouragement. I feel like that after reading this book, it made me feel less anxious about my journey. In my perspective, I graduated from college about 2 years ago, and I have been struggling to find a full-time job. Again, I know, my monotone voice. I've experienced interviews that did really well, and I was like, yes, I'm going to get this job, only to find out that they decided to go for another person. And then I also tried to network, and nothing went beyond coffee, like the coffee meetup. And then now with this whole, pandemics, like I can't really do a coffee meetup. And then I try like different personalities when I go into interviews. I try to be more upbeat. That did not go well. I ended up like scaring the interviewer, actually, in my perspective. But yeah, like I tried different things, and yeah, like I just felt like I wasn't getting anywhere. Just like reading this encouraged me to do new things. I actually started a podcast called J&M Podcast. The link would be down below if you wanted to check it out. I'm not forcing you, but and then I also am doing reviews on my YouTube channel, because I've had this like YouTube channel for about four years, and I was just only posting things I directed or wrote. So I just was like, why don't I just do like reviews, just something that I know that like I'll be happy that I did it, rather than like just be like, oh, I wish I did it and not do it. It's like I've even focused more on writing. I've gone back to a couple of like projects I did while I was in college and have done a couple edits here and there, and I even directed a couple of web series episodes. But yeah, overall it gave me hope that I'm not alone. Yes, Jenna took 8 years to get to where she was, to become Pam from The Office. Like, I think after reading this, I look back at like who is still working or like trying to make it, and since I graduated, and I think out of all the people that I transferred to my college from community college, that only 3 people out, besides me, are still like going for it. Like the rest of the people have quit or decided that, oh yeah, this is not for me. And then also, just like Jenna Fischer, like I don't want to give up after spending like 5 or so years doing this, 3 years in college and then like 2 years afterwards. Like I don't think it's worth it to just quit all of a sudden. I do encourage people to read this book. Like, this was made like about 3 years ago, like back in 2017. So it is still available. It's not like it's forever like unavailable. Like, I got this on eBay for about $10, and this book is about $18 before tax. So, you know, yeah, it's not like a steal, but like, you know, find like maybe a used book. Because this is a used book, and it's like, it was pretty, like, there wasn't any writing in it. So, you know, you could look it up. I got this on eBay, so I'm sure if you type it in, there's probably a bunch of them. You could also go on Amazon, or you could go on Barnes & Noble, or you could just find someone that has it. Find a friend. Anyways, that's it for me. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. But yes, thank you so much, and bye.